Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. I'm certainly glad to have you here. Today is Tuesday, July 3rd. Of course, big day tomorrow where we'll be celebrating our nation's independence. But I want to thank you for being here tonight. We'll start our meeting with the roll call of your City Council.
Councilmembers Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Here.
Karski?
Here.
Rolfing? Staggers?
Present.
Aguilar?
Here.
Anderson?
Here.
Very good. Thank you. We will start with our invocation, as we always do. We're so pleased to have Pastor Wade Mobley of the Living Word Free Lutheran Church. For those of you that are not familiar, it's on about 85th and Western, on the south part of our great town. Pastor Wade is the pastor for about 250 great folks, and we're very pleased to have you here tonight, Pastor Wade. He'll lead us in prayer. And then after Pastor Wade is done, if you'd remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Wade.
I normally take the opportunity to read a scripture. Today I was on Facebook, I'll confess, and found somebody who said, religion, Christian, politics, apathetic. And I was concerned by this, so I thought I'd read for us the first part of the Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. If you haven't read it lately, I'd encourage you to. It's a fabulous document. And while the founders weren't all free Lutherans, God is throughout the whole thing. So let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this day that you've granted to us. We thank you for our city and the 150,000 or so souls who live here. And I ask, Father God, that this group tonight would have wisdom and courage of their convictions, discretion, Lord, and patience as they lead this city. We thank you for this evening, and we give it to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See you tomorrow. See you.
Thank you, Pastor Wade. And he just said, I'll see you tomorrow. Pastor Wade is going to go to the picnic tomorrow, and it'll be great to see him there, and I hope to see all of you there as well. We'll now move on to tonight's consent agenda. Council, any comments on tonight's consent agenda? Councilor Enneman. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move approval. Erpenbach?
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Erpenbach's made a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Are there any comments at all? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 6-0. Now move on to tonight's regular agenda. Council, any comments on tonight's regular agenda?
Move to approve.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Jameson's made a motion to approve tonight's regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. If there are no comments, roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Again, welcome to tonight's meeting. It's a great opportunity for you to engage your city council right now. If you'd like to come forward, please do so. Just introduce yourself to the people of Sioux Falls, and if you could keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, the council would appreciate it. Is anybody interested? Mr. Hirschman, welcome. Welcome, Scott.
Yeah. Scott Arisman, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You guys have a lot of new gadgets here and cameras and everything. I feel like I'm working at a bank or something. Wow. Where's my timer at, too? There's supposed to be a timer down here or something. I don't know. Well, anyway, I'm here to talk about a very important day tomorrow. It's Independence Day. And our founding fathers, incredible people. I've tried to read as many books as possible about all of them. And I always encourage leaders, whether they're city government or state government or whatever, to really do their history lessons on our founding fathers and about democracy and about fairness and most importantly about transparency. And I've been worried a lot. You know, Independence Day is tomorrow, but I worry about our city a lot because transparency has seemed to have gone by the wayside lately. And I don't need to go into details about contracts for the event center or naming rights or whatever. We all know what we're talking about here. We don't need to go into detail about it, but there needs to be a better effort, not just by the mayor's office or the director's offices or by the city council, heck, even by the janitor who cleans this building. There needs to be a bigger effort by the city to be more transparent about everything with the event center. It's the biggest expenditure the city has ever taken on, and the public has a right to know who is bidding, who is putting the bricks in place. They have a right to know who is bidding on naming rights. They have a right to know everything that's going on with this. And right now, we don't know. And we all just sit around and go, oh, just trust us. I often wonder, my favorite founding father was Benjamin Franklin. And I often sit and wonder when I see things like this of what he would think. If I could sit in a room with him and ask him what he thinks of this, he would be aghast. This is not what our country was founded on. Our country was founded on the people and transparency in every way, shape, and form. This isn't your money you're spending. If you want to go spend $118 million on $15 million on an event center, fine, I don't care. That's private business. But it's my money. I need to know how it's being spent and who it's being spent with, period. Tomorrow when you're eating hot dogs and watching fireworks and everything else, I want you to think about your founding fathers and what they built this country on. Freedom of press, freedom for the people. A lot of people over the 200 plus years this country's been around have lost their lives fighting for the ideals of this country. And I would hate to think that these people have lost their lives for a bunch of secrets. I hope not. I hope that you think about this tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, very much. Is there anybody else who wanted to address the council? Welcome.
Name is Mark Weber, resident of Sioux Falls. I want to address the City Council on a portion of the newspaper from this last Sunday. There's a headline on the front page written by a Argus Leader reporter, Rebirth in the Home Market. On the inside, on page 4, the only portion that I'm going to address is this graphic that's on foreclosures in the City of Sioux Falls. I'm a little bit concerned about the information on which this document is based. What comes from the City Planning Department, which is word for word and number for number of what was published, is not necessarily complete or accurate. This is the 24 pages of foreclosed residential properties in Sioux Falls. There are over 1,000 lines since 2008. I'd like to inform the mayor and the council that the city created and maintained foreclosure database is both inaccurate and incomplete. For more than 2 years, I have checked the accuracy of this database. Occasionally, I submit an email attachment to city planning outlining missed foreclosure properties and inaccurate assessed valuations, which are the only two things that are addressed in both this document and in the newspaper article, even though there's much more in the database itself. I regularly receive updates of the city's foreclosure database. Seldom are submitted corrections that I have addressed and sent. For example, Sunday's Argus Leader graphic lowballs January to May 2012 total assessed valuation by $500,000. In addition, the database lists one property as being foreclosed, which in point of fact has been twice postponed and doesn't take place until January 28th of 2012. Mr. Mayor, I bring this GIS database to your attention because a city document should be both accurate and complete when it is given to the media. This one is not, and I can verify things that have taken place in this document since 2010. This database is shared with several city departments, including the fire, police, and community development. It is unreasonable to expect that a taxpayer-funded city document to be accurate. Earlier in 2012, this database passed 1,000 lines, which means that since its inception in 2008, over 1,000 residential foreclosures have taken place in the city.
Mark, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wanted to address the council? Well, very good.
Mayor?
Well, thank you. Yes,
Mr. Mayor, can I make
Councilor
a
Staggers?
quick comment?
Sure.
It's about my appearance this evening. I have on a modern-day pirate outfit. I've got my patch and everything, and I know people are wondering what's going on here. Well, the reason I have this patch is because I have double vision, and to counteract this double vision, I'm wearing this patch. If I wasn't wearing this patch right now and I was looking over at Kenny Anderson or Dean Karski, I'd see two of each of them, and that's pretty scary. So this is the reason I have the patch on. I've been told that maybe the nerve that's dealing with my right eye can be regenerated. Maybe not. If it can't, then there's the possibility of having some prism lens to correct the issue. But this is something that just happened the last several days, and I just wanted you to know why I was wearing this patch, because people seem to notice it, and out in public they're making many comments about this.
Councilor Staggers, thank you, and we wish you all the very best and hope that your eye gets better.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mayor.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else who wanted to address the council tonight? Well, very good. Let's move on. And again, thank you, Scott, and thank you, Mark, for those comments tonight. We appreciate it. Item number 28.
Item 28 is a transfer of a 2011-2012 retail malt beverage license from Frenia Incorporated Kings Casino, 721 West 11th Street, to Frenia Incorporated Kings Casino to be operated at 721 West 11th Street, including video lottery terminals. CUP not required. This predates the ordinance. Item 29 is renewal of the 2012-2013 retail malt beverage for Frenia Incorporated Kings Casino to be operated at 721 West 11th Street, including video lottery terminals. Item 30 is a transfer of 2011-2012 retail malt beverage license from Honesty Counts LLC Aces Casino, 1316 South Cliff Avenue, to Honesty Counts LLC Aces Casino, 1316 South Cliff Avenue, including video lottery terminals. CUP not required. This predates the ordinance. Item 31 is renewal of the 2012-2013 retail malt beverage for Honesty Counts LLC Aces Casino to be operated at 1316 South Cliff Avenue, including video lottery terminals. Item 32 is the transfer of a 2011-2012 retail malt beverage license from Interstate Gaming Incorporated Boxcars, 1400 East 10th Street, to Interstate Gaming Incorporated Boxcars, 1400 East 10th Street, including video lottery terminals. CUP not required. This predates the ordinance. Item 33, renewal of the 2012-2013 retail malt beverage for Interstate Gaming Incorporated Boxcars to be operated at 1400 East 10th Street, including video lottery terminals. Item 34 is a transfer of a 2011-2012 retail malt beverage license from Wayne D. Jones Waterhole No. 1, 2400 West Madison Street, to Waterhole 2400 LLC Waterhole No. 1, 2400 West Madison Street, including video lottery terminals. Item 35 is renewal of the 2012-2013 retail malt beverage for Waterhole 2400 LLC Waterhole No. 1 to be operated at 2400 West Madison Street, including video lottery terminals. Item 36 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine license request for downtown Sioux Falls for hot summer nights on Phillips Avenue from 9th to 14th Streets, Main Avenue from 10th to 13th Streets, 12th Street from Main to Phillips Avenues, 11th Street from Dakota to Mall Avenues, 10th Street from Main to Mall Avenues, parking ramp by Main and 12th, surface lot behind Diner and Plaza by 12th and Phillips on July 18th, 2012. Item 37 is a special one-day liquor license request for TSK LLC Stogies to be operated on Phillips Avenue between 10th and 11th Streets for the Stogie Stakeout on July 28th, 2012. Item 38 is a special one-day liquor license for downtown Sioux Falls to be operated at Falls Park West and Phillips Avenue from 6th Street North to 2nd Street for Downtown Live on August 18th, 2012.
Jamie, welcome.
Hi, Jamie Palmer, licensing specialist. Items 28 through 35 are retail malt beverage license transfers with their renewals. And then the last three items, 36, 37, and 38, are all special one-day requests.
Council, any questions of Jamie? Any comments?
Move approval, Erpenbach.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Urbanbach's made a motion to approve these items, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 39.
Item 39 is a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property at 1826 South Grange Avenue from the RS2 Residential District to the S Institutional District, petition number 2012-0501, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Welcome, Mike.
Good evening. Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. We have two petitions tonight on behalf of Augustana College for continued development of what they call theme houses surrounding the Augustana campus. The first item, 39, is located on the north side of West 27th Street on the east side of Grange Avenue. And the proposal would be to develop this into a rental property that would be owned and operated by Augustana College for their student body. We have approved about 16 of these sites in the past around the campus area, and it seems to have worked out very well in terms of providing additional student housing, as well as providing a way for the neighborhood to have more assurance that some of these rental properties will be managed in a secure fashion. Both of these properties will also be required to have a conditional use permit application approved, and pending tonight's action by the City Council, the July 11th Planning Commission would potentially be considering the conditional use application for these two sites. So item 39 is on the north side of 27th Street, and there is off-street parking provided for. There was a question at first reading about doing this on an individual lot-by-lot basis. And in our zoning ordinance policies, what we've established, and this is consistent with kind of the overall policy, or I should say the statutes for zoning, is that what you would call spot zoning is typically where you would change one individual property that's inconsistent with or incompatible with the surrounding land uses, and also inconsistent with your long-range comprehensive plan. In this case, we believe that it is compatible with the surrounding residential property. And in our Shape Sioux Falls 2035 plan, we've talked about the institutional uses like the campuses for the colleges and for the hospitals are gradually going to expand into these adjacent residential areas. So in some cases it might be on one lot, in other cases it might be a block of land that would be changed. So we believe that this is a proper way to do this, and as I said before, we've done this in a number of places around the campus already. So item 39 would be one of the theme houses. We do have representatives here tonight from Augustana College if you're interested in hearing more about how these theme houses are managed. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of this item.
Mike, thank you. This is a second reading, folks, so if there's anyone who wants to come up to the council, you're certainly welcome to do so. Anybody interested? In that case, we'll go to the council. Councilor Staggers.
Yes. Mike, can you refresh my memory? When we talk about rental housing like this, what's the maximum number of unrelated people that can live in a house?
This is based on the number of bedrooms and parking, and the current theme houses that they have range from 3 to 10 students, so it varies depending on the individual property.
Okay.
Councilor Rebroadcast.
Along that same line then, Mike, if this property were a rental property owned by an individual landlord, are the rules different if it's under that kind of zoning than it is under the institutional
Yes,
zoning?
then it's a
Can you
limitation.
talk about that?
Yeah, then we limit it up to 4 unrelated individuals.
Regardless of the size of the house or the number of
Yes.
bedrooms and those kinds of things?
Yeah. So it's a different category, and I know we had that discussion sometime in the past about trying to accommodate more student housing around the campus areas.
Councilor Jameson.
I was fortunate enough to watch this planning commission meeting one night. You know, when you're sitting around the house, nothing else to do, tune in. I heard a lot of good discussion about other homes in the area that are rentals and the types of students and others who live there. But because this is connected to the school, they have security driving through the area, and it's a good resource for the rest of the neighbors to rely on. But if maybe what I don't remember is if there is a unruly group of people in the house and the neighbors are complaining, who they call the police, how would that resolution and or do the people renting that house have a problem if they're caught having a disturbance?
And maybe I can defer to the folks behind me, but if a neighbor has a concern about any property, they would typically start with 911. But in this case, Augustana Security would also be brought in as part of the response team, and then we would work with the administration of Augustana College to hopefully correct the problem. But I think the track record has been more so that the rental properties that are not owned by the college are the ones that typically get the calls.
Right, and all I wanted to share was what I remember now is that you're right. There's more retribution effect to those people living in that house with their landlord than others, and that's what I think. So this works for me.
Yeah, there are standards that the college makes the students follow in order for them to be able to live in these houses.
Councilor Karski.
Does Augustana College currently own these properties?
The answer is yes.
Okay, so basically they are patrolling them currently because they do own them. And
Yes.
by the purpose of the zoning change, we're just allowing more people to live
Correct.
at this property.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Council, would anybody like to make a motion?
Move to approve on second reading. Entenmann.
Councilor Entenmann, thank you. Is there a second?
Oh, I thought there was, yes.
Councilor Jameson, thank you. We have a motion and a second on this item. And if there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann,
Yes.
Erpenbach,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Karski,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 40.
Item 40 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 1904 South Grange Avenue from the RS2 Residential District to the S Institutional District, petition number 2012-0502, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a similar item to 39. This would be another theme house. It's on the south side of 27th Street. It does have off-street parking available, and this would also be scheduled for a conditional use permit review at the next Planning Commission meeting. In this case, the parking is off the alley as well as off of Grange Avenue.
Councilor Jameson.
I was just going to move it along to invite the public.
Oh, you bet. So sorry. Again, second reading. If there's anybody who wanted to speak to this item, please just come forward. And if not, can I defer to you, Councilor Jameson?
I would make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second Entenmann.
Thank you, Councilor Enneman. Thank you, Councilor Jameson. There's been a motion to approve this item, and it has been seconded. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, if I could ask Mike a question here. I don't, looking at this, I just can't get away from the idea that there's some unfairness involved in this. I mean, I think it's great that Augustana has the theme house, and we're allowing them to have 4, 5, 6 students, whatever the case might be. But if you're a private owner of a home and you're automatically just stuck at 4, there is no way you can go up. Can you respond to what is perceived as some unfairness?
Well, private owners can have more than 4, but they have to be related. So if you have a family of 7 people, yeah, you can have more than 4, but it has to do with unrelated individuals.
Yes, right. And most of these, a lot of these homes in this area are in that nature. They're rentals trying to get students from USF and Augie to rent. And it just seems that we have this sense of unfairness here. I mean, I'm glad Augie's going to be able to do this. That's fine, but I wish we would be able to have private owners to be able to also do the same thing as Augustana is.
And in all cases, the number of bedrooms, the amount of off-street parking is also going to determine the occupancy of those units. So it's not just unlimited in any case.
Has there been any thought about making this a special zoning area between USF and Augustana so we can allow more students in these homes so they can save rent instead of paying out a lot more?
I think we had that discussion a few years ago and that you led, and what we talked about was changing the ordinance to allow more people, and after discussion with the city council, the decision was made not to do that.
But it'd be great if...
So we've had that discussion in the past, and this again is a different type of use. Like we have group homes, we have other kinds of residential land use categories that are exceptions to what people are allowed to do, and there's a reason that we have those different categories.
Yeah.
Councilor Urbanbach.
I would just expand on that just a little bit. I have that feeling of unfairness as well. But when we talk about a landlord that owns a rental house in that area, and we then compare them to Augustana College, who we've now learned provides security on a pretty regular basis, and if a student in one of those theme houses is in trouble in some way, it's gonna, the retribution ends up on their, report cards, their grades, whatever. If a private landowner could provide those kinds of services, then we'd be talking level playing field. The other piece of that then, in terms of looking at zoning in that area, is that it's not just the city council, but as the representative for that district, I'm hearing loud and clear, control the college students. Do not make this a free and open space for all college students all the time, because it is affordable housing for working families in that area as well.
Councilor Enneman, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. First of all, I'm very familiar with these homes and the fact that Augustana is responsible for them. Not only do they monitor the kids and how they're used, but they also provide the maintenance and stuff for these homes, which is really second to none, because it's all about the safety of the kids. I think a number of us who have been in college homes where we've had 8 to 10 kids living in a house that there should have been only 4 in, or who had parents or who had children that did the same thing. And we have great landlords in this city, don't get me wrong, but there would be a propensity on the part to abuse the privilege of being able to do this. If we had commitments, like Councilor Urbanbach talked about, I believe that's one thing. But in this case, our universities, the University of Sioux Falls as well as Augustana, do a fantastic job, and I would really encourage a vote on this, and I'd like to thank them for their community and their respect for the communities.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, we talk about the number of students in the house. Where's the hard surface parking for that number of students?
There's parking off of Grange Avenue with a garage, and then there's a parking pad that's shown there off the alley in the back.
So we're going to say that's enough parking for 8 to 10 students?
No, I think in this case there's going to be 4 students. Yeah, there'll be 4 people living in this unit.
Some information, I know you probably don't have it right now, but that I'd like to see maybe if we could get it. How many homes does Augustana own between 26 and the northern edge of Augustana between Grange and Summit?
Would any of the good people from Augie just be able to give Councilor Anderson Jr. any indication on that question tonight, or we can wait, but if you could provide any indication, I think the council would appreciate that. Mr. Hughes, would you mind just coming? Folks would like to meet you. I know you, but other folks would like to meet you too.
Introduce yourself first. Frank Hughes, Augustana College.
Thanks, Frank.
And Kenny, the question was between which streets?
26, and then the north side of Augustana College between Grange and Summit.
Okay, currently we own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 along 28th Street between Summit and Grange. And then, of course, these two other properties that we've been talking about that are a little bit further north on Grange Avenue.
Are there any others north of that?
No. The one at 1826 is the northernmost property that we currently own.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great job. Ms. Hughes, thank you. Welcome. Well, good questions. Would anybody concern, we do have a motion on this one. It was made by Councilor Jamison, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. With that in mind and no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Stagers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 41.
Item 41 is a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2012-0509 to Chapter 15.45.070, Planned Development Districts at 8000 East Highway 42, amending the Willow Run Planned Development District sub-area regulations. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition on behalf of the Willow Run Golf Course ownership to amend the zoning adjacent to the clubhouse area that would allow additional future residential development. As you go into the main entrance, past the parking lot and towards the clubhouse, what they're proposing to do in the future is to reconfigure the golf course layout along with relocating the clubhouse and developing this property, which is just over 3 acres in size, into about 15 future residential lots. And these residential lots could be anywhere from 2 to 4 units buildings. That's still to be determined depending on what the market is out there. And this would be a private drive that would extend through the area that would be maintained by the golf course property. So it's an amendment to the zoning, essentially to allow additional residential development in this frontage location as part of Willow Run. And the recommendation is to approve this amendment.
Another second reading. Anybody interested in addressing the council on this item? Very good. Council, any questions?
For approval, Anderson.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Karski. There are no questions. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Stagers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 42.
Mr.
Councilor
Mayor,
Herman.
I need to recluse myself from this.
Thank you, sir.
Item 42 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2012-0514 to Chapter 15.45.070, Planned Development Districts at North Bob Holla Drive and West Benson Road, amending the Sanford Sports Complex Planned Development District sub-area regulations. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition by Sanford Health to amend the allowed land uses in what's called the Sanford Sports Complex Plan Development. This is the area that's currently developing up on Benson Road, east of Westport Avenue. It's a little over 100 acres of land area, and I'll just emphasize that this does not include the city's athletic facilities for football and other fields that have been developed. This is the portion that's being developed by Sanford. The field house is underway. The Pentagon is just getting started. And then as part of their long-range development plan, they have other commercial and institutional uses being proposed. So when the list of allowable land uses was initially put together, there were some things that were not included that we would now like to add by City Council authorization tonight. And those would include full-service restaurant, on-sale alcohol establishment, off-sale alcohol, and then recreation complex. But again, that's not pertaining to the city's portion of this development area. So this is really in line with the long-range development plan that Sanford Health envisions for this area. Along with the projects that are currently underway, they are looking at the potential for some future pretty exciting commercial development in this area. So we believe that this is a good fit for that area, and they're recommending approval of these changes to their current zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody interested in talking on this item? Thank you. Council, questions, comments? Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, explain a little bit more on this commercial side of the development. I guess how that is going to operate under is that going to operate under the Sanford umbrella, or is this going to be property they're going to sell?
Let's go back to the and again, we have a representative tonight that can address this as well, but it's my understanding that Sanford will be the developer of this property and that they will maintain an ownership as part of the commercial uses that are constructed. They're currently working with Lloyd Companies as kind of their commercial broker. They're looking initially at trying to develop a hotel and restaurant in conjunction with the field house and Pentagon that would be underway. But it's my understanding that they would continue to be the property owner of this area.
So that would fall under their nonprofit umbrella, or would this be
that's
separate from that?
I can't answer that one.
Mike, would the representative from Sanford be able to address that topic?
We'll see.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome you in. If you could just introduce yourself to the people of Sioux Falls, please.
Appreciate that. Kurt Brost with Sanford Health. And Council Anderson, as of yet, exact business models on each of these projects as they come along isn't really known. We really just look to approach it like any other developer at this point in time and see how it unfolds. It's really quite early, as if you've been out there, to know exactly how it's all going to transpire. So,
but this is going to be the commercial side of the development.
Yep.
A question then for Mr. Cooper. How has this amendment changed this property to allow what usage again?
Okay.
Just more commercial, or?
We currently, in the what we call the sub-area regulations, which list all the allowed uses, it currently says restaurant. We're amending that to say a full-service restaurant. And then we're adding off-sale and on-sale alcohol establishment. We also have office, medical, research, daycare, hotel, motel, commercial parking lot, retail. So we have a number of existing uses that would be allowed, and we're just adding some additional categories to the list.
Thank you.
Council, would anybody consider making a motion on this item?
Move approval, Aguilar.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Aguilar has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 6-0. Item number 43.
Item 43 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 3400 South Grange Avenue from the RC Recreational Conservation, the RA2 Residential, and the I1 Light Industrial District to the C4 Planned Commercial, the RC Recreation Conservation, and the RA2 Residential District. Petition number 2012-0506, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition by Denham Companies to amend the current zoning boundaries of this area, which is located south of 41st Street and east of Grange Avenue. The property consists of about 26 acres of land area, and it's anticipated for future commercial and multifamily residential development. We also have item 50 tonight, which we'll talk about later on, which is the preliminary subdivision plan for this property. The petition tonight would consider changing the acreage of commercial zoning from 4 up to 15. It would decrease the zoning of industrial land from 15 acres to 0, and it would increase the zoning of multifamily residential land from 6 acres up to 9 acres on the east side. So again, the anticipated development of this is going to be for retail, commercial, as well as for multifamily residential. Because of the size of the property, this would also require a conditional use permit review prior to any building permit approval. This also has been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
Thanks, Mike. Any comments from the audience? Council? Councilor Jameson.
Mike, could you show us where 49th Street is? Could you help me get my bearings? Is it further south?
Yeah, the proposed 49th Street would be adjacent to the old railroad right-of-way through this area. And then we'll eventually extend east to Minnesota Avenue and west to Western Avenue.
Councilor Staggers.
Regarding 49th Street, when are we planning to have that completed?
We have that in our capital program for 2017 right now.
2017.
Councilor Henneman.
Mike, that's really contingent about an intersection study too, in coordination with the state. Is that not correct on Minnesota Avenue and 229?
Right. We've been working with the DOT for a number of years about looking at modifying the I-229 Minnesota Avenue intersection or interchange. And so there's a continued review of that concept and recommendations by the state.
Good, thanks. And Councilor Erpenbach.
On that same vein, we've heard in the news the possibility of a pretty large box retailer going in there. Is there any agreement that 49th Street would happen before that building goes in, or are they just, they know that this is what it is and this is where it's at and there's no 49th Street yet?
I don't believe there's any agreement. We're talking about Costco. They are aware of the city's plans for 49th Street, and I believe they're also aware of our schedule that we have right now.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Councilor Jameson.
I just wanted to say I think this is a great transformation from this industrial area to retail, and I'm just excited that we even have this in front of us. So that's all. I'd make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Councilor Jameson.
Second, Karski.
We have a motion by Councilor Jameson, seconded by Councilor Karski to approve this item. And if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 44.
Item 44 is a second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at West 57th Street and South Old Yankton Trail from the RS1 Residential District to the C4 Planned Commercial District, petition number 2012-0518, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a petition submitted by Les Kinstead on behalf of the property owners. This parcel is just over 2 acres in size. It's located on the south side of West 57th Street and east of West Old Yankton Road, and also adjacent to the Bridges commercial development. The property currently includes 2 rental property units as well as a shop, an auto shop, and it's north of an existing church. The owners and applicant are interested in looking at how this could be developed in the future for commercial uses. And as part of their submittal, they've also talked about modifying the access, something that we've been working with them on through city engineering and others, that would connect to the Bridges on the east side and then extend over to Old Yankton Road on the west side, so that the current access that goes directly out onto 57th Street would eventually be eliminated with this development property. So this is the beginning of the process to get the zoning changed. The other details, we would work with them in the future as that comes forward for final approval. So this has also been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone in the audience want to speak to this? Council, questions, comments, motions?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. There is no further discussion. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 45.
Item 45 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by amending the schedule of rates to be charged by the City Light and Power Department for furnishing electric current for light and power purposes as found in Chapter 41 Utilities.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We thank you for the opportunity to present the two-year rate recommendations for the utilities tonight, and we'll take you through a series of slides to summarize them. All right, tonight is a summary. We've condensed the overall presentation that we provided 2 weeks ago to really highlight what the rate recommendations are, and specifically what the rate recommendations are to a typical household. The full presentation is here in copy, but it's also been streamed and it's uploaded to siouxfalls.org. We continue to use the top rate review consultants in the region to help us review and develop our rates, and especially this year as we not only load in our operational and maintenance costs, but ultimately our capital costs that we're expecting over the course of the next 20 years. And as always, we take the cost of service approach to manage these utilities, so you truly pay for what you use and nothing more. We're fortunate that based on using the same consistent team, that the proposed rate changes are consistent with what our projections were last year, with the exception of water. Water is significantly less. Our projections of last year, water was at 9% for 13 and 4% for 14. And this rate review has brought those numbers down to 3% in 13 and 3% rate increase in 14. We'll take you through a very similar slide for each utility. We have clouded around the key utility that we'll speak to. The way that we've laid out this slide is that we've lifted light and power out since they only have a very small defined territory in the city. And so for those light customers, those 1,633 residential light customers that do receive their power from light and power, we can speak to that. But since the majority of the city is served by other providers, they're not in that center category. Center category, nearly every person in the city does receive wastewater, landfill, and water services, so they're grouped. You'll see the overall summary. The impact on a monthly basis on those three is $2.86 per month. And then last, this item will come forward next week, which is the front foot assessment, which we're not recommending a rate increase, but there's a procedural step to pass a resolution to enact that each year. So let's get started. Light and power rates for 2013. Again, we're recommending a 3% rate increase across all customer classes, and that respective rate increase would increase a typical household bill in 13 of $1.58 per month. And in 14, it would impact that typical bill at $1.62 per month. One of the things that we're fortunate that we're starting to see in the region is that wholesale power supply costs are starting to stabilize, and that's really key for this utility because about 68% of our operational budget is to essentially just buy that wholesale cost to ultimately resell it to our customers. Okay, next, that would be the end of the light and power presentation.
Council, this is a first reading. Any questions of Mr. Connor? With that in mind, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, July 10th at 7 p.m. for item number 45?
So move, Entman.
Second it.
Councilor Edmonds made that motion, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Are there any questions tonight? Hearing none, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 46.
Item 46 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising sewer utility rates and charges as found in Chapter 41 Utilities.
Ms. Connor.
Okay, now for water reclamation, we go into that center tier of rates. And again, we're making significant investments into the existing capital of this utility. That's been the most intensive investment that we've made. We just highlighted last Monday how in the last 18 months we've been able to, with your support and authorization of funding, invest just over $20 million into the existing infrastructure. That essentially allowed us to complete Tier 1, and now we're into Tier 2. The projections last year with this utility looked forward and seen that we would be projecting an 8% rate increase on residential customers, and we're consistent with that approach. An 8% rate increase in water reclamation would produce a typical increase for a family that uses approximately 5,310 gallons per month of $1.88 per month in 2013. And in 2014, it would create an increase of $2.05 per month. Where do we meet on the benchmark scale? You can see where we're at today in 2012, 2013. We move essentially to the midpoint, and then again looking forward, assuming that where we'll be in 2014 produces where we're at. We're right in the center. We certainly expect that other communities, just like us, will also review their rates and potentially raise them to meet their current operational and capital costs. That is the presentation on water reclamation.
Thank you, Mark. Council, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, July 10th at 7 p.m. for item 46?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made that motion, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenmann?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 47.
Item 47 is a first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising Chapter 18 thereof to increase rates at the landfill in Section 1830.
All right, thank you. Sanitary landfill, as we continue to progress down, our calculation for the amount of the tipping fee in your typical bill, if you look at a typical bill of $20 per month, what the industry has told us based on the hauler is that approximately 30% of the monthly bill is attributed to the tipping fee. Since we don't provide the collection, we're making an estimate on what the typical bill would go up based on the $1 per ton increase. And so if you account for 30% of $20 is the tipping fee, and with a 3% increase produces about 18 cents impact per month in 2013, and a similar increase in 2014. MSW, which is the municipal solid waste, that's your typical household garbage, on an annual basis, the recommendation is to raise this fee of $1 per ton to $34 per ton in 13, and raise it an additional $1 per ton in 14. That's approximately 80% of the volume that comes into the landfill. Construction and demolition debris, we're recommending a $2 per ton increase in 13 to take that to $32 a ton, and $1 per ton increase in 14 to take that to $33 per ton. We also have done a cost of service analysis on the cost that it takes us to responsibly deposit asbestos, and we're recommending to raise that from $15 to $30 per ton. Where do we meet on the benchmark scale? This was a request of Councilor Rolfing to expand outside of South Dakota to areas that are potentially more representative of our size and population. So we've added cities to the benchmark slide. Our current rates are in the lower 25 percentile. With the expected rate increase in 13 and 14, we're still in that lower third, still delivering a very competitive tipping fee for the region. That's the extent of the presentation.
Council, would anybody like to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, July 10th at 7 p.m. for item 47?
So move, Karski.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Karski's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Zentman?
Yes?
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 48.
Item 48 is the first reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by increasing water rates as found in Chapter 41, Utilities.
Thank you. For water, again, this is the one change from our projections of last year. Last year, the projection was 9% in 13 and 4% in 14. And with close review and control of expenses, and specifically getting very good bids on some of the capital projects, the revised projections is much less. The recommendation is for 3% in 13 and 14. In addition, our current 10-year plan will reduce the debt of this utility by nearly $43 million. We do still, as the City Council has enacted years ago, have a philosophy of paying for what you use. And so you'll see on the benchmark slide that our basic charge is one of the lowest charges that you'll see in the region. And then as opposed to some other utilities where they'll charge a large basic charge just to have the service and then a small volumetric charge. And so we'll talk to that when we get to that slide. In 2013, with a 3% rate increase for the typical household, again, that uses about 5,310 gallons, would have an impact of 80 cents per month, and the same increase in 14. Again, right on the benchmark today, we're right in the center of the pack, and with the expected rate increase for 13, we'd move down a notch, and then with 14 again jumping out, we've not actually shown one where we'll jump out 2 respective years, but we're still essentially in the center of the pack for water. I know it's hard to see, but if you look at the 2012 bar and you see the very dark blue that's on the screen, that's our basic charge, and the lighter blue, is what we call the volumetric charge. And that as you look across the board, there's a number of utilities that charge a very high charge and then a smaller volumetric, different here. And again, it goes back to you pay for what you use. We have a 4-tiered rate system that incentivizes conservation, and all those systems stay in place. Also included in this ordinance change recommendations is we're reconciling some of our costs when on the left-hand side, that's a new tap to either a home or a business. That's essentially a saddle, a service line, and then a curb stop that creates a new service. We've seen significant increases in materials since 2007, so we're reconciling those costs to true costs. In some cases, the materials are more than what our current charges are, so we want to reconcile this. And then the Smith taps, that's essentially when you extend water main down a new street or potentially put in a new hydrant, and again, that reconciles those costs as well. And that's the extent of the presentation for water.
Thank you, Mark. Councilor Staggers.
Yes, Mark, I guess I'm a little concerned about the constant rate increases in the water. This next few weeks we're going to be getting more water from the Missouri River. But at the same time, we're going to be cutting back on our production of water here, taking it out of the wells and I guess the Big Sioux River. I guess many people are wondering, why don't we continue to produce a lot of water, and in producing a lot of water, reduce the cost?
Produce a lot of our own local water, our source water?
Well, yes, as we continued, because apparently what's going to be happening with this new water coming from the Missouri, we're going to cut back on that. Why don't we continue with that, have an abundance of water, charge a cheaper price, and make the citizens of Sioux Falls benefit from this?
Well, 2 points to that, and we're in line with that because we've revised the amount of water that we expect to buy from Lewis and Clark. But the process had started 6 years ago when ultimately the bond was sold to buy into Lewis and Clark. We said at that point in time that it would be good to do a phased approach into the water rates, because we've essentially taken on this nearly $70 million debt to buy into that system. And again, Lewis and Clark is the city's long-term water source. Just like you said, we don't need it today, but we will need it, as many other cities that are going to be a part of that need it. The other strategy that was implemented was the first 5 years of that debt was to be interest only. Now we're moving into that principal and interest phase. And so we've taken the approach along the way to minimize the impact on the water customers, to phase in water rates as opposed to 5 years ago significantly increase them in 1 year. So that's one strategy that was employed to try to minimize the impact. And then on the other side, we do recognize that today we have a good water source in the Big Sioux River and Middle Skunk Creek. And so with Greg Anderson operating the plant and managing, truly making that call on what does water cost to buy from Lewis and Clark and what does it cost for us to produce it ourselves, we are going to buy the contractual minimum. But one of the key things to being a member of Lewis and Clark is they have to sell a certain quantity of water to operate. And so that contractual minimum is just under 3 million gallons per day that that's been a community decision years ago to sign up for, and we need to follow through with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. But why aren't we producing more and more water for the consumers at a lower cost, and also using that revenue to help pay off the bond too?
Well, we only produce as much water as they need on a daily basis. And so the consumers will only take so much. If I'm understanding your question right, it's not like we can produce an abundance above what their daily needs are, and through our reservoirs and our towers, we manage that on a minute-to-minute basis.
I guess what I'm saying is that we have so many restrictions on the citizens of Sioux Falls now when it comes to water. Oh, you can't water on even days if your address is 311. You can't do that. You can't water between 12 and 5. And also the amount of money involved in watering your yard. I mean, you don't have to water very much until you're moving way up in there into higher costs. Mm-hmm. We have all kinds of disincentives here. And basically what's going on here is that we're being charged more and getting less. And this is, I think, inappropriate. We should be doing like we did back in the 1990s, getting that water plant out there working and trying to produce a lot of water and selling a lot of water for the citizens of Sioux Falls. Mm-hmm. Because, once again, we get less and we pay more.
Maybe just one additional thought, and I think that the odd even is really from an operational standpoint, because if everyone in the city chose to water their lawns on Monday and say Wednesday, that's a significant tax on any system. And so the odd even has really been a great strategy, not only for homeowners, and I think probably easy to understand, but also from an operational standpoint, is we split the amount of customers that will water. And then I thought it was interesting, just a point of history. We were going through some old boxes the other day, and way back, I believe it was 1953, there was a publication put out, and we were talking about water conservation, nearly 60 years ago. And so communities all across the country know that water is only an infinite amount of water, and you need to have conservation strategies, and that four-tiered systems certainly worked here in Sioux Falls.
But talking about conservation, once again, that's trying to limit the amount of water that people can buy. And let's suppose, this is what's been happening. Mm-hmm. We continued following that philosophy, and then we allow the water to continue to go down the Big Sioux River. We allow it to go into the Missouri, down in the Mississippi, into the Gulf of Mexico, and become salty water. I mean, that's not really conserving water at all. It's wasting water.
certainly one thing that Public Works would welcome is if we'd want to continue to at least talk about water conservation and look back at not only what's been implemented, but to look forward. It's been a number of years where water conservation strategies have been put in place, and we're certainly welcome to have that conversation again with the City Council. Councilor Staggers.
Councilor Karski.
Do we have an infinite capacity in the amount of water that we can produce for the city?
No. We've got the aquifer up north, and then we also have, based on river flows, we have the ability to take water out of the current Big Sioux River. But Greg will know. Greg has been a part of the plant for nearly 25 years, and he's seen the years where people have been able to water without any restrictions, meaning any day of the week, any time of the day. He's also seen it where the river is to a point where we're, say, at 50 CCF, and so we can take very little to no water out of the river, and we have a limited amount of well capacity to actually take out of our well field. So there's not an infinite amount of water that's available. We are fortunate right now that flows in the river are still very strong. So we're taking about 15 million gallons a day out of surface water and the balance out of the aquifer. But we know that there'll be days, there'll be years when the water's not as plentiful, and it's critical to have conservation strategies in place. Yes.
About what % of our capacity are we operating at right now?
I'll probably bring Greg up to share with where we're currently at.
Greg, welcome. Would you mind introducing yourself to the folks?
Sure. Greg Anderson, Water Superintendent with Public Works. With the addition of our 5 new gravity filters in 2011, we have a filtering capacity of 75 million gallons per day. And today, with the extra dry weather, we increased our plant production up to 45 million gallons per day.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Endemann.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys. Being elected to the City Council afforded us the opportunity to take a look at the number of utilities that we have and the state of the utilities. And I believe Councilor Brown in the past has always brought up the fact that we should feel very good the way that we are. And I commend the city staff for their forward vision and their strong and vibrant utilities that they've developed here, and their policy of looking at the rates that you set on an annual basis, or in the future, every couple of years we plan on looking at that. And I think the citizens of Sioux Falls should feel really good that we have some strong utilities as we look to the future. And they do afford us the opportunity to look at economic growth, because we do have the things that people need, and we do have the things that are going to be needed to grow this city.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You do a great job.
Jameson.
I wanted to add as well that I think I picked up on what Kermit was talking about. And the fact that we're reducing the amount of supply, but increasing the rates. And maybe what we need is a better graph or an explanation of how you've decided that limiting the water production and increasing the rates, how that balances out versus overproducing the amount of water and having whatever. Maybe you just need to explain it. Maybe you did in the previous presentation, but I'm a guy who would like to conserve more and more, so I buy into the concept, but I can appreciate what my fellow councilor is after, in that we're reducing this, but then we're charging more when we have the ability to produce more. So the argument that we're charging more because we have less doesn't work, but maybe you just need to explain the rationale about producing less better for us so that we can understand it and the public probably can understand it too.
I think that's, we can certainly do some work on that. I think the one takeaway would be is that we don't want you to think that we're producing less. We've just implemented conservation strategies that incentivize, from a cost standpoint, you to use less. There's still the ability, if you're a homeowner or a business, to use essentially as much water as you want. We've not implemented water conservation. We haven't implemented this year water restrictions. It's just through the 4-tiered rate, as you go up in usage, then you start to jump into different cost structures. And essentially, that's just a very simple process to incentivize essential water services. But when we have a typical residential household get in the upper tiers of 10 CCFs a month, we know that some non-essential uses are happening, whether it's lawn watering or those kinds of strategies. And that's a choice that they've made to buy that amount of water to ultimately water their grass in. And it's probably more of a challenge this year where we're seeing temperatures in the upper 90s, and it gets to be kind of a diminishing return about how much water you can put on your yard and try to still keep it alive. And so, but there are a number of people watering. Greg today has shared that they're producing about 45 million gallons per day. And so we're also, as we talked last time, we're providing water to Lewis and Clark, which is providing water to about 8 communities, which is about 4.5 million of that today. Once Lewis and Clark comes on board, they'll take that water usage for those communities, plus then we'll start to buy our 2.75 million gallons per day. So again, Lewis and Clark, on a typical day like today, our community, absent those other 8 communities, we'd be producing about 40 million gallons per day. And we're only going to offset that with 2.75 million gallons per day that we'll buy from Lewis and Clark. We'll still be producing and treating about 38 million gallons per day from our own sources.
Councilor Jameson.
Well, maybe I just misheard something then on the idea that we were going to be limiting the amount of production at our treatment plant. Did I hear that?
No. We'll still deliver what the customers need. There's essentially 2 sources. We have source water that's north of the city that's either comes from well fields or our river intake system. And we have now, within about a month, a source from the Missouri River. And so we're going to use those 2 sources. This is still going to be the lion's share of our water source, which is to the north. And on a typical day like today would be about 38 million gallons per day from that, and about 3 million gallons per day from the Missouri River. Now, if the city and its customers started to use, say, 50 million gallons per day, we're still going to be able to use our own source because our own source is very strong. And so we're not limiting the amount of water that people can buy. The only thing that we're doing is we're still meeting their customer demands, still trying to balance the operational needs of the plant so they don't have significant peaks and valleys. And then ultimately still respecting that conservation strategies are being implemented across the country. And there are some communities that are in significant dire need. We're very fortunate here to not only meet our own needs, but meet the future needs, as Councilor Entenman mentioned, from an economic development standpoint. So we're not limiting production. We're just still implementing the conservation strategies that this body that has endorsed for a number of years.
Councilor Mbach.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, July 10th, 2012 at 7 p.m. for item 48.
Councilor Mbach, thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Entenman.
There's a second by Councilor Entenman. Is there any further discussion? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Entenman, Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
That is passed 6-1. Item 49.
Item 49 is a first reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city to establish single stream recycling.
Welcome, Bob.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Bob Capel. I'm with the Public Works Environmental Division. I'd first like to introduce our team here tonight with me. It's Mark Cotter, Director of Public Works, Dave McRoy, the Landfill Superintendent, and Amy Ladonsky, our Sustainability Coordinator. As you know, the city owns and operates a major regional sanitary landfill. And this landfill serves the 5-county region. The purpose of a regional sanitary landfill is to protect the health and welfare of our public and the environment. Our team is proposing revisions to Chapter 18 to standardize our recycling methodology. We would appreciate your consideration and support of this proposal. This slide highlights our major public outreach efforts that we have taken on this matter. We have had meetings with the solid waste recycling industry. We have had meetings with the solid waste planning board, and we've had meetings with the city council. Specifically, we have met twice with the council's public service committee. Through this process, we've been evaluating what would be the best option for the city to improve waste minimization within our community and region. Through this evaluation, we evaluated the differences, the pros and cons between source-separated and single-stream recycling. The two examples here for those in the audience that may not be familiar with those two methodologies are recyclables in the source-separated methodology. The recyclables are placed for collection in separate containers according to the type and material. Where single-stream, all recyclable materials are combined into a single container for collection. Through this evaluation, it became very apparent that the best option for our community was to go towards a single-stream recycling methodology. The major reasons that were used for the selection of single-stream was first, the primary was the convenience to customers. Second, there would be a significant improvement in our public education efforts in recycling. There would be a less impact on the solid waste and recycling industry if we move to single-stream versus source-separated recycling. For instance, haulers using single-stream currently manage 88% of the solid waste within our region. There is also a current significant private industry investment of infrastructure that is in place locally in our community, which is a very positive thing that we have here in Sioux Falls. Also, it has been proven that higher recycling rates are achieved nationally and locally through single-stream recycling. For example, locally, in 2011, all the garbage haulers that use single recycling that achieved more than 15% use single-stream recycling. In 2011, the haulers that use single-stream recycling overall achieved a 21% recycling rate, while those haulers that use source-separated recycling technology overall only achieved a 12% recycling rate. This next slide we have seen through past presentations from our team. It basically depicts the garbage haulers that are licensed by the City of Sioux Falls in 2011. It is color-coded. Those haulers that use single-stream recycling are blue. Those that are using source-separated in 2011 are yellow, and there was one hauler that used both methodologies. As you can clearly see, single-stream recycling haulers outperform those that are not using single-stream recycling. There has been some significant changes since this information was provided to you. The hauler industry is continually moving towards single-stream. And what we are proposing tonight, again, is probably just bringing our standards up to what nationally and locally and regionally the haulers are choosing to do on their own. Right now, there are currently only 3 haulers at this time that are servicing Sioux Falls that are still using source-separated recycling methodology. This next slide basically shows our efforts that were used by working with the Solid Waste Planning Board. Our team relies very heavily on this board for its input and direction. It's a very large board of 15 members. This is a summary of the 4 meetings that we had with the Solid Waste Planning Board meeting. We had 2 meetings with their ordinance subcommittee and 2 meetings with the full Solid Waste Planning Board. At this time, I'd like to personally thank this planning board. It has been a great pleasure to work with them. They're very active and they're very strong in participation. Just for information, through these 4 meetings, we probably averaged about 90% participation by the board members, which I think was excellent. In the ordinance subcommittee meetings, we had 100% participation in both of those meetings, and there's 7 members on that ordinance subcommittee. So I'd like to thank them publicly for their efforts. And matter of fact, behind me, I've noticed that we have 2 Solid Waste Planning Board members with us tonight. that are here on the eve of our Independence Day. Merle Woolman and Ken Allender, I'd like to show my appreciation for coming here on their time to support this. And ultimately, through the Solid Waste Planning Board, the Ordinance Subcommittee unanimously voted to pursue single-stream recycling. And it was submitted to the full Solid Waste Planning Board, and the Solid Waste Planning Board had unanimous support of pursuing single-stream recycling and bringing that recommendation to the council. The next slide basically discusses, we did meet with the City Council's Public Service Committee on June 12th to go over this recommendation from the Solid Waste Planning Board. And as you can see, there were some public comments that were brought up to the committee at that time. Our staff has since then addressed those public comments, or at least attempt to address those public comments, and I'd like to discuss those at this time. The first comment that was made by the public was there was a representative of one of our recycling industries to basically not allow glass containers to be included in the residential single-stream recycling collection methodology. That was a legitimate concern. We met with that representative of that business, and we tried to provide several options that maybe could resolve the concern by this business. Unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that we really came to an impasse. The only solution that this business would find acceptable is to basically, for the city to ban and basically outlaw glass from being included in single-stream recycling. We felt that is really a major step backwards for our community, and we feel we cannot support that recommendation by that business. The major reasons why we feel it is not necessary to do that, I'm quoting 3 sections in ordinance that really kind of, I believe, resolves that concern. Under Section 18.1 and 18.32, it clearly describes that glass is not a banned material from our landfill, and it is not a required recyclable material. So any citizen within our region, any hauler within our region, any recycler within our region can choose not to accept glass. So we are not mandating that they accept glass. What we're just saying is that if you accept glass, you include it in the single-stream recycling. So there is options available to the industry and the public that resolves that issue from our viewpoint. The second major concern that was brought up by the public, and this was brought up by one of the haulers, and I have to compliment this hauler. It was a source-separated hauler, and he had the highest performance of the source-separated haulers in 2011, and that speaks very highly to me because it says he's probably doing a pretty good job. You know, if he's the best at source-separated recycling, he's doing a good job at everything else, but the methodology is probably hurting him overall. This hauler basically requested that if we do adopt, if the council adopts these ordinances changes, that we allow a 2 to 3 month delay before we enforce or implement the ordinance. Just for information, I've discussed this matter with the hauler since the Public Service Committee. The administration supports delaying full implementation and enforcement of these ordinances if they are adopted by your body. The Councilor Anderson Jr. during that last meeting recommended an effective date of January 1 of 2013. I have reached out to the City Attorney's Office and asked for a legal opinion on this, and they have advised me that we do have the authority to basically delay full implementation of these standards as long as we do not selectively enforce the standard until the final implementation date. So based on that information, we appreciate the public comment, and we do support a delay of implementation if adopted by council till January 1, 2013. The rest of the slides are basically the changes that we are proposing within the existing Chapter 18 ordinances, and these have been submitted to you electronically and also in hard copy. And I'd like to, at this time, instead of going over them individually, just open the floor up for any discussions or questions on those changes.
Council, any questions, or would anybody like to make a motion? Councilor Jameson.
One quick question on the section of the ordinance 18-1, glass containers are not a required recyclable. How is it that an item becomes a required recyclable? What is the process that determines that?
Glass, as an example, has gone in front of the Solid Waste Planning Board several times, whether it should be required or not. All times, the board has chosen not to make it a required recyclable. Basically, the board would only do it if we really felt that there was a strong market out there for the use of glass and that we had a demand to basically support a mandate. So we would not, from the city's perspective, require an additional recyclable material to go required unless the Solid Waste Planning Board would support that. That has been a contentious issue for many years.
Councilor Jameson, with your permission, would the council be allowed to make that a mandatory item?
Sure. Of course, anytime City Council has the authority to make any policy changes or recommendations on ordinance changes, correct.
Thank you.
But as staff, we would go in front of the Solid Waste Planning Board.
Thank you.
First.
Well, very good, Council. Thank you. Would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, July 17th at 7 p.m. for item 49?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Jameson.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made that motion, seconded by Councilor Jameson. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Council members Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 50.
Item 50 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Williams Addition.
I'm still Mike Cooper with Planning and Building Services. This pertains to item 43 that you acted on earlier tonight. This is what we call the preliminary plan for this property south of 41st Street and east of Grange Avenue, called the Williams Addition. The preliminary plan is the information that includes street right-of-way, lots. It also includes things like utilities and grading plans. And so this shows what's being proposed by the developer as to how this property would be divided for. On the west side, it shows a potential footprint of a commercial store with a parking lot on the north side. And then on the east side, it shows a footprint of multifamily buildings with garages. It shows a BMP drainage area on the southeast corner of the property. And then on the very north side, it shows a private right-of-way that would also provide what we call back access. So those buildings, those businesses that front along 41st Street could also potentially use this as back access for their loading, for their customers, whatever it might be. So this is a preliminary plan. It's gone through city engineering, planning, other agency reviews, as well as the Planning Commission, and it meets all the requirements, and we're recommending approval of this tonight.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Council, any comments?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve item number 50, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 51.
Item 51 is a resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards.
Would you be kind enough to announce those to the people of Sioux Falls, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor. The boards are CCOG, Council members Kenny Anderson Jr., Sue Aguilar, with Legislative Operations Manager Jim David serving as alternate. And the second board is UDC, with Council members Kenny Anderson Jr., Greg Jameson, Dean Karski, Rex Rolfing, with Council member Michelle Erpenbach and Legislative Operations Manager Jim David serving as alternates.
Thank you very much. Council, would anybody like to make a motion on that?
Move to approve Erpenbach.
Second, Jameson.
Councilor Erpenbach's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Jameson. No further discussion of roll call vote, please.
Council members Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 52.
Item 52 is a report of the June 22nd, 2012 Notice of Transfers of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units.
Very good. Council, any new business anybody wanted to discuss tonight?
Move to adjourn, Karski.
Second, Urbanbach.
There's been a motion to adjourn by Councilor Karski, seconded by Councilor Urbanbach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Make it a great, great night, Sioux Falls. Happy 4th of July, and be safe out there. Make it a great night. This meeting is adjourned.
Oh, no, you're right.